It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of March 17th, 1995. We got 5 movies to look at today, so let's just get right on into it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is the sequel to the 1992 horror film Candyman, and that is Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh. Yeah, fuck the subtleties of the first movie. Let's just make Candyman the next Freddy Krueger. I mean, that's literally what they did with these movies going forward. At least these first couple of sequels they did. They basically turned him into another Freddy Krueger. And yeah, I mean, yeah, Tony Todd's going to be awesome playing Candyman, but really, this is not what the first movie was trying to do. This was not what the first movie was trying to be. And it took them almost 20 years later to actually do a worthy Candyman follow-up in the Candyman movie that came out in 2021, which was a really damn good movie, and this one really isn't. And would you believe that this director also is the same man that brought us such great movies as Chicago and The Greatest Showman and Beauty and the Beast? Well, okay, maybe great's not a term that I should use here, but I mean, he wrote Chicago, he directed Dreamgirls. Dreamgirls was a good movie. Chicago was a great movie. Dreamgirls was actually a great movie. What am I saying? But yeah, Bill Condon wrote and directed this movie. Many people don't realize that. This was back when he was just a writer on... He wasn't really doing a lot of writing. He wrote some stuff like Strange Behavior, Strange Invaders, FX2. This was before he really took off. It started off with Gods and Monsters a couple years later, and then Kinsey, then Chicago, and then Dreamgirls, and then the other stuff like The Twilight Saga, Breaking Dawn Part 1 and 2, Fifth Estate, The Beauty and the Beast remake, The Good Liar. So we're still kind of in that... So he started off kind of mediocre, had a high note, and then fell off after Dreamgirls. So we're not quite at the peak of his career yet, but yeah, I found that hard to believe that he directed this movie, and yeah, you could definitely tell this was before he really knew what he was doing. This was a movie that just really... They turned this character into a typical slasher movie, and it's not exciting whatsoever. They straight up lie to you right off the bat, making you think that this is going to be an expansion of the story that was already being developed in the first movie. But no, it's basically just, let's redo the first movie, except make it even stupider, and just turn it into a schlocky horror movie. And that's really what this all becomes in the end. It's nothing exciting whatsoever. Tony Todd's doing the best he can here, but even he can't save this movie from anything. But yeah, it's a mess of a film on so many levels. I really did not like this movie at all, and I think a lot of people agree that this was not a good movie, but didn't stop them from making another one, because they made another one 3 years later, or 3-4 years later, but we'll eventually get to that one later on. But for now, Candyman Farewell to the Flesh, not a very good movie. So let's try to get back on a more positive note here. Let's go to a comedy now. That's our next movie, and that is Bye Bye Love, with Matthew Modine, Paul Reiser, and Randy Quaid. There's stuff in here that should work. I mean, this is directed by Sam Weisman, who we already looked at his first movie he did, D2 The Mighty Ducks, which was a fun movie for kids. You got a cast that includes Matthew Modine, Randy Quaid, Paul Reiser. Not only them, but Amy Brenneman, Janine Garofalo, Eliza Dushku, Rob Reiner, and 2 really good writers on here. Gary David Goldberg, the man who made Family Ties and Spin City, and also Brad Hall, who was, of course, married to Julie Louis-Dreyfus. And, was he married to Julie Louis-Dreyfus? I'm thinking of somebody else. No, I'm right. Julie Louis-Dreyfus. But, yeah, this movie, like, it really wants to try to be the next Parenthood. I mean, there's even TV spots where they say, it's the Parenthood of the 90s, and Parenthood worked because you liked the characters in that movie, you thought that the setups were funny, there was a good script there was a lot of good actors there. There's good actors here, just not a very good script. It feels like they were just trying too hard to make it kind of like, let's do a film focusing on divorced dads. Let's see what their adventures they'll have together. And again, not a bad concept, just poor execution. I mean, I was watching this trailer and I thought, man, they sure go to McDonald's a whole lot in this movie. And it turns out that was part of the production. They were heavily underwritten by the product placement by McDonald's in this movie, and they show it all throughout this trailer. It's just like it's kind of like, I mean, give them credit though. At least I'll say that this is a better movie than Macamee, but at least Macamee's kind of fun in its own way. This is just kind of boring. Like, it's a boring comedy. There's nothing really all that exciting there, with the one exception of Janine Garofalo. I think this is the movie that kind of slowly but surely started to make people realize that, hey, this girl's actually this chick's actually kind of funny, I should say. I say girl, but she's probably in her late 20s, early 30s by this point. I mean, she was in Reality Bites, but this is kind of like, this was a role that where she really took something that wasn't really funny and made it funny. She was really one of the strongest things about this movie, and one of the things that people remember about this movie. But like I said, it's not a bad idea. They have good writers here, just not a good execution. Everything feels like a bad sitcom, and it doesn't help that you have Paul Reiser here just basically doing his character from Mad About You. If Paul had broken up with Janie in that series, is it even Janie? See, this is Stream of Consciousness. Trying to remember, is it Janie? Yeah, or Jamie? Jamie, Helen Hunt's character. I haven't seen Mad About You in a long time, but Stream it. This is the problem with doing this right on the cuff. I gotta remember these things right off the bat, but yeah, it feels like this is the character from Mad About You if Jamie broke up with him and he had to go find his way through life again. And like I said, good ideas, just not the right execution. I feel like another rewrite of the script probably would have made this work a lot better, but I don't know. The movie overall, it's not bad, but it certainly isn't as good as it could have been. There's a lot of people here that really could have made this movie work if they had a better script to work with. And it just didn't really work out. It's a movie that kind of came and went, and nobody really ever talks about it, except for the few elements I talked about that are actually kind of good. That's Bye Bye Love for you. So anyway, let's move on to the next movie, and that is Halle Berry and Jessica Lange starring in the drama Losing Isaiah. Once again, a noble effort to try to tell a deeper story about this mother who basically dumps her son in a dumpster. He's basically a dumpster baby, and this orphan and this social worker eventually takes her in as her own. And now all of a sudden, the one woman who gave birth to this kid wants her back, and it makes a lot of it leads to a lot of complicated issues and something that should work in a movie, but not in this movie. Everybody's trying their best here. I mean, you've got two really top-tier actresses, Jessica Lange, Halle Berry, and you also have David Strathairn, Cuba Gooding Jr., Samuel L. Jackson, Regina Taylor. A really good cast here, a really good director, too, Stephen Gyllenhaal, who you may know from work such as A Dangerous Woman was the last film he did, but he also did Living with the Dead. He also did Grassroots, So Be It, Time Bomb. I mean, it looks like it's going to go in a direction where it could be a compelling drama, but it just really falls into melodrama almost immediately. Like, everybody in the movie is Oscar baiting, everybody's going way too melodramatic, everybody's trying to cry, that fake cry that makes people in the audience get emotional, and it just doesn't work if you don't earn it. Like, you need to earn those moments, and the movie almost does it in the beginning, but then it just falls off big time, and it's just kind of like, man, this movie is just not good whatsoever, and it's a real disappointment too, because there is so much there that could actually work. You've got top tier talent here, but the script just falls off so quickly, and you expect a whole lot more from everybody involved in here, and there's just nothing there by the end of it. It's a movie that has a lot of potential at the beginning, but never really capitalizes it on anything whatsoever. It's a film that's just such a mess on so many levels. It's a movie that really wastes a lot of people's talents on this. It could have been so much better, and it just is. It's a film that's largely forgettable, and probably for good reason. So anyway, that is Losing Isaiah. So let's move on to the next movie that we have here, and that is Minnie Driver and Chris O'Donnell in the comedy Circle of Friends. This is a fun, sweet little comedy. You got Chris O'Donnell, who is just coming in, who's going to have a big year in '95 with this, and then Batman Forever really took him to stardom. And then Minnie Driver, who this is only her third film as an actress, and this was essentially her breakout film. You also have Colin Firth, Saffron Burrows, directed by Pat O'Connor and written by Andrew Davies, based off of the book by Matt Binchy. It's a nice little romantic comedy. It's a nice comedy where these two, you really buy into the chemistry between Donnell and Driver. They're really good together. They have a lot of good moments in here. It doesn't fall into predictable cliches that would usually ding a romantic comedy like this. It's a nice little film. It doesn't do anything entirely spectacular. It's nothing all that engaging. It's not even one of the best dramas ever, but it's a fun, not even a kind of a, I say drama, but it's kind of more like a comedy, maybe dramedy kind of, but it is fine for what it is, and it works mostly because of the performances. I think the performances definitely do carry the film over more than anything else in the film. great film overall. I really enjoyed it. It's a nice little film. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. So, with that said, let's move on to the last movie here, and that is Jason Alexander's For Better or Worse. So as you can see, this is another one of those movies where there's no trailer for it online, and you basically have to take a clip from the movie to really show a little bit of what the movie is about. This is Jason Alexander starring and directing this movie, and one of the only two movies I think he's directed as a film overall. I think he's directed television before, but I think he's only directed two movies in particular. This is basically a comic love triangle where a man falls in love with his younger brother's wife. I mean, basically, and the younger brother is played by James Woods. You have Lily Davidovich as the love interest. Pretty good cast overall here. Joe Mantegna is also in here. Jay Moore, Robert Costanza, B. Arthur, who refused to have a screen credit for the movie. John Amos, Rob Reiner, Haley Joel Osment, Rip Torn, Stephen Wright. Written by Jeff Nathanson, who's written a ton of movies, including Rush Hour 2. Was it? Yeah, Rush Hour 2, Rush Hour 3. Actually, his first movie, I think. He's directed. He also wrote Indiana Jones, the last one, The Lion King, the remake, The Terminal. Notable writer, has done a ton of great stuff, but just from that little clip alone, you can kind of see what the problem is with the movie. Like Jason Alexander, he's George Costanza, and I think like when he plays his great roles outside of Seinfeld, he usually tries to keep himself away from being the typical George Costanza type of role. But here, it's definitely like that, except he's got a fuller head of hair rather than he does on Seinfeld. And I don't know, this movie just didn't work. It's a film that was like, it's a very hard to find film, first off, but the story isn't really all that engaging. And honestly, this was done a lot better when Dan in real life, almost 12 years later, with Steve Carell and Dane Cook. It's pretty much kind of the same concept, sort of. As you have a guy falling in love with his brother's girlfriend, and the hijinks there ensue, which are done much better there than they are in here. I don't know. This is a film that I saw as I watched it recently, just in the last day or so, to actually really know about this movie. But honestly, this is one that I kind of wish I didn't get to see. I don't know. Alexander, as a director, didn't really make a lot of good movies. I think the only other movie he directed, and now I can't remember the name of it here, so I'm going to look for it here. Should be here somewhere. Where is it? Dead air. Why am I not seeing it? Why am I not... Okay, hold on a second. I found it. Just looking. It came out 4 years later in '99. It's a better film, but mostly because of what the concept is. It's basically this teenage boy from the Bronx is basically sent to the Queens to live with his aunt and new uncle for one summer in the 1950s, and his hormones and curiosity about sex. His goal for the summer is to witness an act of love, and you can kind of see where where that would be a little bit better, but I don't even want to jump into it because we're still a couple of years away from it. But that's the other movie that he directed. But I will say it's at least a little bit better than this movie. This one just feels kind of really dull, honestly, when I really look at it again. Just not a very intriguing movie, despite all the people they have involved in there. So that is For Better or Worse. And on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we'll have 6 movies to look at, including Damon Wayans starring in the comedy Major Payne. We also have Kathy Bates starring in Dolores Claiborne, Disney's Tall Tale. We have Priest, Funny Bones, and Bar Girl. So 6 movies to look at next time around. We'll delve into those on the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you for watching, I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.